Here we are on election day when it's likely that the Labour Party will storm to victory. Yet despite many polls showing they've got a massive lead and even Conservatives conceding they're going to get an outright majority, it still baffles me as to why anybody would actually vote for them. I think we all know why the Conservatives are going to, and deserve to, collapse. They've completely betrayed their base with more globalist neoliberal politics and economics. They despise their average voter, and despite saying the odd Conservative thing every now and again, it's just a ruse to try and win people back over. And of course, I understand there's going to be a fair chunk of the country that will always vote the Labour Party, the trade unions, the naive students, the naive people in general, the old school socialists that haven't gone to reform yet, and of course the immigrant mass. Yet famously, elections aren't won by one's base, they're won by floating voters, and it amazes me that people actually think that the Labour Party are going to balance the economy, are going to limit immigration, are going to restore law and order. Of course, absolutely none of that is going to happen under the Labour Party, but the one silver lining I've been talking about on this channel with regards to all of this is the fact that it's going to be so bad, there's going to be so much immigration and socialist wokery that it will wake the average person up to how bad the situation is we're in. Yet in preparation for that, I thought I'd show you some clips outlining what a state the Labour Party types already are, and on top of that, what we're likely to endure in the next 5 years. First up, we have London lovey and resident communist in the mainstream media, Paul Mason. He's complaining about the far right, not that he knows what the far right is, of course. To him, anyone to the right of Jeremy Corbyn is in that bracket. Here he is explaining how to save the day.
Here in Britain, we've got Reform UK on something like 15 and you know, above that. And in some constituencies in the Red Wall, they're now coming second to Labour. It's the failure of the centre, the moral and economic and narrative failure of centrist politics, and the failure of free market economics to deliver to people.
Now, while I think he's got a point about the free market no longer serving people, we seem to serve it more than anything, he's missing the elephant in the room, as leftists always do. The reason Reform are picking up votes across the board, and you're seeing a right-wing surge across Europe, is mass immigration from the third world. Also, the people of Europe are waking up and realizing this is driven by centralist globalist economics and left-wing social and cultural theory, i.e. we want a mass of cheap workers to keep flooding the countries to keep the economies inflated, and on top of that, we have to be demonized as evil, supposedly white privileged colonizers who deserve everything we get. Henceforth, many people feel like and can see that they're losing their own countries. The left may think it's a good thing for white Europeans to be a minority in their own continent, but many people don't, and they have every right not to. But don't worry, Paul's got a solution.
But there's a solution. Now, I argued it in my book, How to Stop Fascism, and it is a political alliance of the left and the centre.
Oh great, how original. More neoliberal, globalist Blairism then.
It looks like the French left and centre will do the right thing. They're agreeing to stand candidates down to allow each other to keep the right out. And that's good. Here in Britain, we don't need to do that because we've got an alliance of the centre and the left. And it's called the Labour Party.
I honestly don't know if these people can even hear themselves. He's actually advocating a return to Blairism that we've had for the last 30 years anyway, and is causing the supposed problem with the far right that he's trying to solve in the first place. I mean, this is just totally incoherent. But don't worry, when you think you can't take any more of the Labour Party, there's always some woke, detached, multi-millionaire celeb to come and lecture you as to why Labour are a good thing.
It's heartbreaking to see the hopes of Britain's next generation of creative talent downtrodden and destroyed by bureaucracy and red tape.
Right, Elton. That's the big issue that the election is balanced on at the moment, red tape in the creative industries. These are the same creative industries, by the way, that demand total uniformity in holding liberal, pro-mass immigration, pro-LGBTQ, globalist views if you wish to have a career, while churning out soulless saccharine pop that promotes materialism and nihilism via hip-hop and destroys beloved TV and film shows via woke manipulation.
It's madness to treat a hugely successful sector with such disdain.
That's why we're backing Keir and Labour to win this election.
What could be more convincing to vote for the Labour Party than two multi-millionaire gay guys pontificating about the politics of the UK from their home in what's going to be Trump's America? Yeah, they don't even live in the UK. But 'twas ever thus with the rich Labour voting celebrity types. They promote policies that they won't have to live under and don't suffer from. We're going to see a lot more of that. Another thing we're going to see a lot more of under Labour is this.
Party which operates on a hierarchy of racism. And I stand here in solidarity, united with the people of Bangladeshi heritage. As our uncles and our fathers kicked out fascists from the East End, we will do it again. Starmer thinks that the Bangladeshi community will vote him in and his party in by default. We stand outside his headquarters to say that we will not. We will never allow fascist rhetoric to rule over our communities.
Yep, despite the Labour Party believing they can welcome people from every single corner of the world and create some utopia by blaming conservative-minded European people, the reality is that's never going to happen. You can't solve the grievances of all differing tribes and peoples. But this is the inherent contradiction of liberalism, multiculturalism and mass immigration. A Bangladeshi nationalist yells at Keir Starmer for being a supposed fascist because he doesn't go along with her demands. Remember, multiculturalism really is an ethno-nationalism for all the differing groups, but if Europeans even go near that, they're worse than Hitler and don't deserve to be in modern Europe. And this is what we've got to look forward to in a Keir Starmer premiership, the differing ethnic groups of London agitating for their own ethno-nationalist aims, while our government and institutions do everything they can to bend over backwards to show they are tolerant via more mass immigration and more multicultural woke policies. But don't worry, dear viewer, I know this can be depressing on the surface, but these sorts of things need to happen so we can push towards a sort of reawakening of European culture, so we can look deeply into ourselves and find out who we really are and what destiny we really want. Now, while I don't believe these problems can simply be elected away, I do believe there's an opportunity here for a certain civilizational rebirth, a new way of doing politics, new unions and agreements with our brothers across the continent. In my mind, that's the only way to counter globalism and what they want to turn the European nations into. These are just my thoughts, however. Do let me know what you think down below, and do consider subscribing to the channel.